Hi, Jim. Hi, Dave.
How you doing?
Boy, we're a happy, energetic bunch.
Oh, yeah. Kathy, what do you got behind you?
Bookshelf?
No,
Where?
turn around.
Oh, crap. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
I didn't even think about that. So I sew. Oh, that's a great start.
All right, Allison, I'm not sure what it is, but you look a little different.
I think it's her hair.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
a little different. That's my school. I'm waiting. My school. I'm waiting picture.
Dave, I didn't know if Mark talked to you, but he said he's gonna be a few minutes late. He had another meeting prior. So he'll pop in as soon as he's done with the other meeting. Okay.
Dale, do you have a flag for us for when we start?
I'm opening it as you speak. It's open.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We'll start in a minute. Mark Cotty contacted me. He is chairing a meeting of the Republican Committee for McLean County, and if he can join us late, he will. Has anybody heard from Joe?
No.
Mm-mm.
We'll give him about a minute before we start. Sarah, if you don't mind sending him a text message, just reminding him if you'd please do that. It's 7:00. We're going to go ahead and start. The meeting is now called to order. Dale, will you please display a flag? And I would invite everyone to please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of the United
of the
States
States
of
of
America
America,
and to the republic,
republic
Or which,
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
with liberty
with liberty,
and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know if there are any members of the general public watching tonight. Welcome if you are attending the meeting. And if you would like an opportunity to speak when we get to the open meeting part, please let Sarah Hill know that you want to speak during that portion of the meeting. That'll be coming up probably in about 10 or 15 minutes, so notify her now. All right, can we have roll call
Dave Brulog,
here?
Kathy Brooks,
Here,
Jim Campbell,
Here.
Lynn Norris,
Here.
Bill Morris,
Here.
and Mark's not here yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, before we get started, Pat, is there anything that you're aware of in the agenda that I would need to vote on with only 4 trustees present? Pat, you're muted.
Double checking, looking through, yeah, no, I don't see anything that requires a supermajority vote, so no. And
Thank you.
unless if there were 3 yays and a nay on many matters, then you would be called to vote, but in the
Okay.
absence of that circumstance, no.
Thank you, Pat. All right, first item on the agenda is consent agenda. This is reviewing the minutes of our last meeting and reviewing the treasury reports on our finances. Did anyone have any questions on the minutes?
Turn that light off behind me in the
Bill,
kitchen.
go ahead, Phil.
He's muted.
Phil, you're still muted.
Good.
Did you have, go ahead. Phil, did you have questions on the consent agenda items?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any additional discussion or questions? If not, please, Allison, roll call.
Kathy Brooks,
yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
All right, next item on the agenda is report from the village president. Let me start with a revenue review. We've been watching it real closely because a lot of towns are seeing major decreases in revenue because of COVID-19. And we have been fortunate in that overall our revenues are still holding up pretty strong. The property tax, there was no payment this month, but Sarah, I believe that happens occasionally where there are no payments in a specific month.
Yeah, that's not an every month thing. Also, one thing to note is that we did start getting gaming tax again, so we've paid back everything that was given to us mistakenly from schools. So that's all taken care of, and so we're back to receiving gaming tax again.
Sarah, I didn't catch all that.
I said we're receiving gaming tax again.
Okay, I got you. So
Oh,
that,
that's fair.
and for our newer trustees, we were receiving gaming tax money from Lake Bloomington taverns, which should not have gone to us. And so the state quit sending us gaming tax revenue and caught everything up and squared it away. And what Sarah just announced is that that is all caught up now, and we are getting gaming tax revenue again. Okay, so the utility tax is down for about everybody. And during our mayor's meeting, that was discussed, and gentleman from Northern Illinois Gas explained that because of all the fracking, the natural gas costs have gone down quite a bit, and so the taxes have also gone down. And so we're not generating as much revenue in that category, and that could be true for several years to come. So, but it's not a big loss, and overall, we are ahead of last year's revenues, so I think revenues are in good shape. The next item is COVID-19 status. The counts a month ago for zip code 61748 were 52, and this morning I checked, they're adding at 133 now. So we're adding 2 or 3 cases a day in zip code 61748. Most of us know people that have had it, and it's obviously just like what you hear in the news, the situation is getting worse. There are a lot more people catching it. So we still have to keep our guard up and take whatever actions we can to prevent our employees from getting it. We do have the mobile testing unit aware that we would like for them to come out. And if anyone has concerns with that, let me know. Sarah, what's the status on the request for getting the CARES money?
At this point, it's still in review, so we're just waiting back from them.
Okay, so they have everything, and it's just a matter of reviewing all the payroll, and that should be pretty straightforward. So
Yeah, this should be good to go.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the sewer grant application. And Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but that grant application has been okayed by Farnsworth, and that has been sent in now.
It is submitted, and now we're just at the waiting point.
So the study will be more comprehensive than what we originally were aware of that Farnsworth offered us, but we needed a more comprehensive study in order to apply for the next round of grants if we proceed with the next step of this. So we're waiting now to hear word from the state on whether or not our grant application is approved. Next item was status of sexual harassment. I know staff is done. I finally finished it. I don't know if the trustees are done, but you have until the end of December to complete the sexual harassment training. So the trustees, if you have not completed it, please get that done by the end of December. Next item on the agenda is discuss and vote on Christmas bonuses. It has been the possession of the board in the past to reward the hard work for our employees with a Christmas bonus. And the past few years, I believe we have awarded our full-time employees $300 and our part-time employees $100. And I would like to know if the board is interested in doing that. I'll open it up for discussion on that topic.
Shouldn't the part-time employees get 150? Half of what the full-time would get? Just a question.
I think I looked in the minutes from last year, and I think we paid 100 last year, the part-time.
Okay.
And yeah, that certainly is a board decision. We can do that.
Any other thoughts from anyone else?
All right, so
Really?
if somebody wants to go ahead and do Christmas bonuses now, We need a motion and a second. If somebody wants to put it off until January, we can bring it back up then and pay a late bonus. But,
I'll make the motion.
okay, so Jim, is your motion to pay 300 for full-time? How much for part-time?
150.
150 for part-time. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any discussion or questions? If not, Allison, please call roll.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
yes,
Bill Morris.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the annual tax levy discussion and a motion to approve that is due in December. And we had it on our agenda last month and realized we needed some changes to it. And those changes are in what Sarah sent out. And I tried to send an explanation of the changes on and some background on how the tax levy works out to all the trustees. It's a learning experience as we go for a lot of us. So first question for the trustees is, do you have a little bit of an understanding now of what we're doing, a better understanding?
Yeah.
I would be glad to answer any questions you have on the explanation that I tried to send out. The total amount is 126.5, I believe, which is about what we thought we were going to get last year until we found a problem with one of the categories being maxed out. So, Allison, will you please note that Mark Cotty has joined us now. Thanks, Mark, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. So
I have a question.
yeah.
And it's just something I don't understand. How does it get maxed out? Because I read your explanation, but I don't understand the maxed out thing.
Want me to take that, Dave?
Yes, please.
Fund maximum rates are set by statute.
Okay,
And
so
so so your general fund, and it's not always easy to draw parallels between communities because sometimes the fund maximum rate varies even community to community. It's based on nuances in the law. But in general terms, the county clerk's office keeps track of that. But for most of your funds, not all of them, there's a maximum rate set by law. And so when we get to a point where the amount of levy requests we make for that fund would require the county to extend taxes above that maximum rate, that's when we're capped out, so to speak.
okay,
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Kathy, we took the rate that we had and multiplied it times the equalized assessed valuation. And we were asking for more than that cap. The rate times the assessed valuation was the cap. And we were requesting more than that, which we would not have got.
Okay, it's basically the base is set by the statute and then you get the equalization. Yes?
Yes.
The maximum rate is set by statute.
Okay, and then we can use the equalization.
Yeah, the amount of actual, so the X times Y equals Z, and your levy request is Z, X is your equalized assessed value, and Y is the rate. So the equalized assessed value is set by the township assessor and then approved by the county assessment office or maintained by the county assessment office. So we don't control the assessment. We only indirectly control the rate, but we control the amount of cash we request. So they work backwards into the rate.
Now, Pat.
Okay. So
As a-
that's not, okay, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Just a point of clarification, Pat, that the only way that we would be able to change that if we wanted to go and have a higher rate, we'd have to go to referendum, correct?
Yes, and not every fund has a referendum process for relief from the max, but many do. In your case, you have, through expanding the funds in which you levy, you aren't assuming a continued pattern of asking for no more than a 5% increase. I see no constraint on your ability to raise funds through tax levy for my professional career and everybody here's, professional career involved with the village. And so we'll continue to explore ways to make sure you have flexibility to levy what you need. But Mark's point is exactly correct.
Okay. Like I said, I just couldn't get a hold of it.
Understand.
Does that help, Kathy?
Yes, like I said, was trying to use the equalizer on the property taxes, and that probably is not correct. It's a different equalizer.
Okay, so the proposed tax levy that Sarah sent out, the total is, let me pull it up here, what, 126.5, was that it, Sarah?
I believe so. I don't have it right in front of me here, but I believe.
126,225.
Okay, I've got it here, 126,225. General purpose is 86,000. Police salary is 25,850. Audit purposes 7,700. Park salary was 6675. Grand total is 126,225. And changing the categories is not gonna change the total amount that we're trying to collect. So that's what we're proposing for the tax levy. Does anyone have any additional questions on it? If not, will someone be willing to make a motion to approve that as our tax levy for this year?
I'll make that motion.
Do we
I'll
have a
second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the tax ordinance levy for the end of this year. Is there any additional discussion or questions?
That ordinance number is 1348.
1340,
Yep.
okay.
1348.
Okay, if not, we'll take a vote. Allison, please do roll call.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Bill Morris,
Yes.
Mark Cotty.
Yes.
Okay, another motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Next item on my agenda is the 2021 board meeting dates, and I believe it's a state ordinance that we have to pass or get this posted before January. So the meeting date is the same as this year. It's first Tuesday of the month unless there's an election. There isn't an election in April, and Allison's got that accounted for. The location is listed at the police department, and we will start meeting at the police department as soon as we quit the all the electronic meetings with Zoom. So, are there any questions or discussion on the meeting schedule?
No.
If not, I'd like a motion to approve the meeting schedule.
I'll
I'll make
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Allison, have you got names?
Yep.
Okay, any final questions or discussion on the meeting schedule? If not, Allison, please call roll.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Bill Morris,
Yes.
Mark Cotty.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's the end of my agenda. Just another reminder to anyone in the audience that's watching our meeting tonight that wants to speak during the open meeting session, please let Sarah Hill know that you want to speak and we'll get time for you then. Next on our agenda is water and public property report. Jeff Waller.
In the parks, the snowflakes went up on Saturday. Denny and I came in and put those up on Saturday and decorated the tree in Front Street. I kind of put out a little announcement. If people wanted to add to that Front Street Christmas tree, they're more than welcome to do that and add their family ornaments or whatever they wanted to do there. I think I had 3 snowflakes that were out because of power issues from Ameren. So I think they showed up today. I know he got a couple of them fixed today. I think he got all 3 of them fixed. So we're all lit up on the snowflake side of things. The Heartland Fiber cable guys, I think they have 4 blocks to go on South Broadway, and then they're out of town. So that project will be done. The underground on that project should be done by the end of next week, and they'll be done with their project on the underground side of things. So that's good news. That's about all I have.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Jeff? If not, next we have street and zoning, Denny Engel.
Yeah, the leaves were coming in full force, and I think that's slowing down. So Jeff was a big help in keeping that under control. People I think are doing a pretty good job of getting the leaves over there, and I think that's working out good. All the fortunately or unfortunately, the snow and ice equipment is ready to go. I definitely like to thank Pat for helping out with our ordinance violation situation this month, and it seems to be heading in the right direction. I have also have started a little bit, but plan on working a lot this month on the sidewalk and drainage stuff for the planning commission, and where that might go and where the needs are for that, and kind of a sidewalk sort of report and drainage report to get as we're coming up to the budget of where we can maybe use some help in those areas. And then also starting the monumental task of entering all the permits that I've had this year. So that's what I'll be working on. That's all I have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Denny? All right, thank you, Denny. Next is Village Marshal Dale.
Yeah, right now, everything is going pretty smooth. Again, we've backed off, a lot of our community contact. We let them come into us because of COVID. And we are making a lot of progress on the meeting room. Waiting for our chairs still. They're somewhere lost between Romeoville and Champaign. But we'll have those, I think, this week yet. But everything is getting done and looking good. Again, I can't say there aren't any complaints, but we are following up on a couple cases and continuing to do what we have to do. No other report.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Dale? Thank you, Dale. Jeff Thomas, your Civil Defense Director, is not here. I know I heard sirens this morning. I'm not sure which ones went off.
I heard both sets.
Okay.
And 12.
So we're going to assume they all worked. Next item on the agenda is the citizens hearing. Sarah, has anyone notified you they wanted to speak?
They have not.
All right, then we'll close the citizens hearing. Next is our report of standing committees, finance, budget, contracts, and employees. Trustee Lynn Norris. Lynn.
Yeah, so the shed that we rent from Unit 5 on the school property, the lease has been up for a while, so they've presented the new lease that they want for it. And it's written as a 10-year, but they said they would be open to a 25-year. It looks like the board has to pass it if we want the 25-year. It's continued at $100 a month or $100 a year for it. And the village needs to maintain property improvements, have insurance on it, which we already do. And if we do anything to it, like do any upkeep to it, then once the lease is done, then obviously we forfeit all, like, that goes back to the school, the district. So I think there was only 2 questions of it needs some work, right?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
So it's a matter of if we want to commit to doing that, if we renew the lease. And then if we want to renew it, do we want 10 years or more?
So the background on that whole lease thing happened when Dan and Rachel were around, and we wanted to improve that building. We didn't. Then we found out we didn't have a lease. So that's how the lease came back around again. And I think the discussion last time is we wanted to put our best foot forward as the village using it. Our squad cars are in there. We use it for our facility. So that's how the discussion started, and we got with the Unit 5 lawyer and got the contract done. So I think it's a good idea to put a facelift on it, siding, at least siding and soffit. But I'll defer to the rest of you.
The roof is still in need of repair as well.
Dale, as far as the roof repair goes, is it just that one area where the shingles blew up?
Yeah, they're still up. They haven't been repaired at all.
Okay.
I think Richard might have a comment on that from the planning commission, which he will probably speak to it during my time. Unless he would like to speak now. Richard?
I think at this point, we had some discussion as part of the planning commission, but I think we were waiting to hear what the decision was, what the contract was, or what the contract was as far as moving forward, and then what the village was thinking as far as planning to use it. We didn't know what all was stored in there or anything like that, but it is kind of penciled in right now into what we'll say is phase 2 of the planning commission. Working on the Hudson plan. So we were kind of just tabling it until we heard this discussion to move before we moved forward with including that or anything in that plan. So that's kind of where we were at. We just had a lot of unknowns. So just waiting to hear.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Lynn, would you also bring up the cancellation options that either side has?
Yeah, so there's, in the lease, there is a part for termination. If we wanted to cancel the lease, we can at any time. We just have to give a year notice.
So if we agreed on a 10-year lease now, we changed our mind in 5 years and didn't need it anymore, we could cancel out
Yeah,
at that point in time.
yep. Can I ask, how soon does the work that needs to be done on it need to be done? Is it something that is affecting it as of now, or is it something that it can wait some time before it needs done?
The roof ought to be done as soon as possible. And that could be patched temporarily. I would recommend, if we're going to get an extended lease, put a metal roof on it, we're done with it, for any time that we would want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
The siding can be done in the spring, probably be better. Yeah, the roof is the most important thing.
And the previous lease was for 10 years, and then it's been kind of idle for 10 years. So we've been using it for nearly 19 years now.
Pretty close to it, I'm assuming.
Do we foresee using it longer than 10 years, that it would be good to get a longer than 10-year lease, knowing that we could cancel anytime and then we have it and we don't have to worry about it in 10 years?
I would recommend that. Personally, if we confiscate property as a police department, we have to keep it in a secure area or have it pay to have it stored somewhere. And that costs us money. So if we pay $100 a year, that's extremely cheap. It's lockable and out of sight. It's a good idea to keep it. Plus, both water and parks use it on the side. So we have space for our cars and their cars. And if we have to store a seized vehicle or whatever.
So that I would, I mean, if it's something that we know we want to do again, I would almost recommend then go asking for the 25-year to be voted on by their board to see if we can just get the longer lease then.
And the longer lease comes with the 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I'm assuming it's gonna be everything's the same. They just change the term to 25. Cause it just says they're not opposed to a 25-year lease. It just has to be voted on 2/3 of the board members. It doesn't say if anything else would be changed. I mean, so that's a question we can ask to make sure before we move forward with it, that just to be sure if we do want the 25, then everything stays the same, just the term of the lease is longer.
Are they willing to help any in the repairs, or is that all on us? That was one of the big questions that was being bannered around in the planning commission meeting, was the cost for doing the maintenance on that.
In the lease agreement, it says that it is fully our responsibility. I don't know. I have not talked to anybody, so I don't know if they've been asked if they would be willing, but I mean, it would be worth asking.
I think that discussion came up the first time around with Dan and Rachel, and they said it would be our responsibility to do that.
Fully. I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, yeah, at $100
$100 a year.
At $100 a year, my personal opinion, and we store stuff in there too. So we store the lawn equipment, stuff like that over the winter time. In my opinion, for $100 a year, I would lock it up for 25 years, especially if you're going to do some work on it, and then you get paid back from doing that work over the 25 years instead of over 10 years. And in 10 years, they might think that building's worth a little bit more to them too,
right?
Than it is right now. So if you can lock them up for 25, then I think that's a good deal.
Do they have the same capability of giving us a year notice and breaking the lease as well?
They do. Yeah, they do. It's on both parties. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, if we do extended amount of work on that and say we would lock it in for a 25-year, and 2 years later they say, oh, we want it back.
Well,
we might have a clause into that where if they ask for it back after we spend a lot of money, then they share the expense.
I agree with that too. I mean, I don't think we want to put that, you know, we're probably talking $4,000 to $5,000 by the time we're done. And then one or 2 years later, they come back and say, I think if we're going to put that kind of money in, we have to have something a little longer than that. Guaranteed.
Right. That was a discussion in the planning commission as well. If we're going to do that, how would we protect ourselves for that kind of expense? And it's a diminishing thing, right? So it does. I agree. We agree that was part of the talk at the planning commission, not just me, but the whole commission.
We could always say if they cancel before 10 years, they share the expense. After 10 years, we eat it. It's a thought. We already owe them $1,000 for 10 years we didn't pay.
Are they asking for the 1,000?
Not that I'm aware of, but
no, I don't think they are. I don't think they even knew they had a contract with us until Dan and Rachel brought it up to them.
For sure.
Okay, so is the board in agreement then that we want to go ahead and do a contract? We want to see if we can negotiate a 25-year contract. And if they terminate the lease sooner than 10 years, that we split any costs that the village has put into it and upgrading the garage.
I think that's a reasonable compromise.
Okay. I would like to add that we probably ought to go ahead and pay, since we haven't paid for 10 years or 9 years, whatever it is, we probably ought to go ahead and pay our $100 annual fee to show them we are serious about keeping it.
Yeah, that's in the bills.
We've already paid it?
Yeah.
We paid the bills for this month. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
it's every December we pay it.
so. Okay, Lynn, have you got enough direction to move forward with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Great.
So if we have to go 20, 25 years, you said you have to have board approval and you're not gonna do that.
They, oh no, they need their.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
board.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. I
Yep.
got you. Okay.
Okay. All right, Lynn, do you have anything else for us?
No, I'm just starting to work on the garbage contract stuff. I was looking over the purchase agreement. So once I figure out what needs to go in the bid requests and stuff, then we'll kind of move forward with that.
Okay, and I've got some ideas too of things I'd like to add in the bid, so.
Yep. Okay, then we need to get together.
One of the biggest problems we've had has been wind blowing garbage around town. And if we can put in the contract that we want trucks that handle the garbage without letting the wind blow the garbage all over. And they do have that kind of garbage truck. I don't know the names of it, but that's the type of thing we want to put in because it's a major problem.
Well, don't forget about the leaking all their fluids all over the streets.
Yeah.
That's kind of unsightly.
Yep. So, yeah, we'll get with you when you get that far, Lynn, and see if we can get that kind of wording worked in.
Okay.
Lynn, you have anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Streets is Phil.
I have no report this evening.
Okay. About ordinance and zoning, Kathy.
Okay, I don't have anything on my list, but I do want to bring a couple things to the board's attention. But I would like Richard to give a synopsis of the Planning Commission meeting from the 23rd first, if you would, please, sir.
Okay, so high level, we've began looking at what we have remaining left as items to address for a phase 2. And we've kind of come to the determination that it makes better sense if we piecemeal this off so we don't have a big phase 2. So what our plan is to come up to our next item to add to the list, flesh it out, then provide it to the board, and then just go on. So we're just chopping one thing off, one thing off at a time instead of providing like a big list of 7 or 9 items. So we may have phase 2, phase 3, it may go to phase 10 or whatever, however you want to call it. And I think it's then we're giving smaller chunks of items and work and direction as far as let the board look at to see where to go. So at this point, that's our plan. We'll try it with this next one, and we'll work with the board, see how that works out, how we think that works, and if it moves forward, we want to go that way. So at this point, we've had some really good discussion on the next item. We should have it probably after the next meeting that we have as a planning commission. We'll bring something to the board for what phase 2 or whatever we want to call it. The next item as far as the list and continue to make addendums from there. Otherwise, we start looking at it can get large, and then where do you start, where do you end? That's a lot of work, a lot of items, and and we're not sure that is the best. If we go to the next one, it doesn't work very well, we can adjust at that point, whatever the board direction is from there. So more to come when we get this, the next phase prepared and presented to the board. The only other thing I have is it's just curious what the status was on the sidewalk up to Dollar General. Last I knew, there's just a lot of work still going on, but no milestones per se or anything as far as direction. Is that accurate?
Bill, would you to discuss?
I'm gonna start to get together with Farnsworth and talk about that and get some measurements and cost estimates on things. So yeah, I'll be starting to work on that over the next month or two.
Okay, so that's what you were referring to a while ago during your time when you said looking at the sidewalks, you were meeting up to Dollar General.
Yes and no. So
So
$2
everything then.
General, $2 General plus other areas of town of existing sidewalk that need repair, areas of town that we may want a sidewalk, and try to prioritize. We don't have sidewalks here and there, and you know, have somebody other than me decide what we want to do there. But I just kind of wanted to give a more of an old town sidewalk status report, so to speak. The sidewalk is good here, the sidewalk is not good here, or the sidewalk doesn't exist here, and here's how much it cost to repair or to create new sidewalk. That's what I'm looking to do.
And so that'll include the whole town, which is obviously going out to Dollar General as well.
Yeah, primary focus will be on the kind of the original town section, because for the most part, both of the subdivisions are in pretty good shape.
Agree.
And I'll be working on the drainage stuff as well, because I believe that was something that you guys wanted to see focused. Well,
Correct. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, like I said, there's a couple things I wanted to bring up. One of them, and it sounds weird because it's the wrong season, but the swimming pool issue we've had with different residents, it actually, and this is so everybody's on the same page, it actually does say in the ordinances that capable of holding water with a depth of 24 inches or more on both the permit and in the ordinance. So when people are trying to argue, it's not true. It is in the ordinance and it is in the permit. So whenever a resident asks, it really is. If it's capable of holding 24 inches or more, it has to have a pool permit. And it also states that this applies to the same pool setup, same the permit require permit. This applies to the same pool setup on the same location year to year. Otherwise, a new permit is required. So unless they leave it up all the time, each year they have to have a new pool permit. That's just an FYI, because so many people are saying as long as there's only 24 inches of water in it, which is not what the permit or the ordinance says. But I also want for the board to discuss the amendments to Article 5 that I sent out prior. And I have a question for Pat McGrath. Sir, in section 4, which is dealing with dangerous dogs. Yeah, let me get over there. Dangerous, vicious dogs. You have a special permit penalties section. And at the very end of it, it says, each day, any violation of any provision for this code shall continue. Any provision of this code shall constitute a separate offense. But it also states at the beginning of that paragraph, upon conviction to be punishable by a fine, not less than yada, yada. My translation of that is and like I said, this is number one, that it pertains to that section 5-3-6, and that once an ordinance is issued and they go to court, once it goes past whatever the court says you have to get rid of this vicious animal by this date, after that, every day we can issue them an ordinance violation. Is that true or am I misreading that?
So the word code actually should be section there as opposed to code. Code.
Oh,
would-
sorry, section 5 dash,
You read it correctly. So there's a typographical error in the last sentence of the special penalty provision for in the proposed changes to 5-3-6D. The part about going to court, yes and no as to whether that's correct. I'm pulling up your code here so I can make reference to the specific provisions of that section. But in general terms, we always look for penalty provisions to say every day is a separate offense, so that if you have someone who's violating the code and we usually only reserve this for the most egregious situations, but you could proverbially wallpaper them with tickets, and even before they go to court, you could write them a charge, a new charge for every day. So if give me a second, I'm getting that section right in front of me.
that's fine. Because it, like I said, what I translated and what it says, I want to make sure is the same thing.
So
But Pat, if the ordinance read they could be fined by the day versus write them a ticket every day, would that be the same?
yeah, the same thing. Yep.
So
So
you wouldn't have to litter them and use every ticket you got. You could just write in the ordinance that every day is a new fine until it's settled.
well, you'd have to actually write them a new in my opinion, your best practice is write them a ticket for every day so you can distinguish the times when you're wanting to hit them every day and the times you're not. In the case of 536, so it defines a dangerous dog and a vicious dog, and then it requires confinement or leash and muzzle, and then it has exemptions. So there's actually a bit more to the process just by statute than what your code reflects, which is okay. But essentially, once you have a dog that's deemed a dangerous dog or vicious dog, your code says they have to be confined at all times so they cannot reach persons, and they should be leashed and muzzled when they're not confined. So if you had a dangerous dog in town and they were never being confined, they were, allowed to roam, and that dog that happened every day, you could hit them with a ticket every day. So it's not after we go to court and there's a court resolution, but rather, before court, you can hit them with a separate ticket for every single day.
Okay, well, it says upon conviction in the one that you sent me, which made me think that it had to go to court.
Well, it has to go to that pertains to the amount of the fine. So the last sentence says each day that the violation exists is a separate offense. And then the prior reference to conviction says essentially for any offense for which you go to court and you're convicted, the minimum fine's $150 for first offense and $250 for second offense, $500 for third or subsequent.
Okay, that reads confusing then to me. So basically, once it's been determined that this animal is a threat, we can actually give them an ordinance anytime we see that animal out.
Unsecured, yep. They're not confined, yep.
So upon conviction really has no meaning in this context?
No, it does, because no fine exists until they've gone to court and the court's adjudicated them to be guilty. So
Okay.
You can settle a ticket by paying it at the village office, but the existence of an offense a ticket is an allegation that you violated the code. The conviction is a judge agreeing that the allegation's been proven.
Okay, so if I'm translating it right, then it's been determined this animal is loose and vicious.
Mhm.
We give them a ordinance violation.
Mhm.
They can pay that at the office for $75, and then the next one, say they do it again.
I have to pull up every municipality.
They pay the first one over the counter for 75, and that is basically their admission of guilt and the matter is settled. The second offense, they can do that over the counter, and that's 150. That's their admission to guilt, and the matter is settled. The third time, there is not a pay over the counter option. It's go directly to court, and then the fines are what the judge will set forth for the defendant to
Okay, and
pay, not
we could,
us.
all right, and before the time, after the third one's issued and before the court date, we could issue them another 10 citations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
And Denny's explanation was perfect. It was exactly correct.
Thank you, Denny.
And I only know that because Pat has told me numerous times.
Anyway, and the rest of the ordinance, basically, it's taking each section within Title 5, Chapter 3, Title 5, Section, however, it's Chapter 3, Title 5. It's throwing all of the other penalties in that section, Section 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 10, and 11, back to the original penalty phase 1-4-1, the general penalties. Instead of each one having an individual penalty line. There are two that's excluded, which personally I don't have a problem with. One is 5-3-5, which is for noisy animals, which is here it is. Basically, it's $50 for the first offense, and then it just says maximum fine is $750. Noisy animals, generally, we don't have a lot of those. You know, people generally will keep their animals quiet. And 5-3-8, which is pertaining to dog feces not being picked up, which is a $50 fine. And I don't know if we've even issued one of those.
Not that I'm aware of.
So with the exclusion of the 5-3-6 with its specific one, because vicious and dangerous animals are special. It's basically this ordinance update throws everything back to the original penalties in 1-4-1. Is that correct, Pat?
Yes, and that was necessitated by some language that I thought created an adverse interpretation of the village about the maximum fines for a series of occurrences. So we're striking from this entire chapter the language I had an issue with. So yes, your summary is correct.
Okay. And I will be putting it on the agenda for next month. So if anybody, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I screwed up and didn't get it to Allison in time, which is fine because this needed to be verified anyway, so that everybody understood what the intent and the meaning was.
Okay.
And that is really, any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Who has the authority to determine that a dog is dangerous or vicious?
There's a definition. Well,
I read the definition.
It says any dog in an aggressive or terrorizing manner approaches any person in an apparent attitude of attack on any street, sidewalk, or public or private property other than the property of the owner of the dog.
So,
and a vicious dog is any dog when unprovoked bites a human being while on public or private property.
Bite generally will get animal control's attention, and then they'll have to quarantine it. And if that continues a second time, it definitely is a dangerous animal.
So there's essentially a due process right that's invoked if there's a desire to deem a dog a dangerous dog or a vicious dog. In 98% of the occasions, as you approach that need or that fact pattern, the person surrenders their dog to have it put down by animal control. In the absence of that, either an administrative hearing, an administrative adjudication, or a court hearing. If we were to allege a dog is dangerous and cite someone for not confining the dog, we would have to prove that proposition to a judge in order to succeed in the ordinance violation case. So essentially, there is a due process right. There has to be hearing either administrative or before a court at some point before someone can be fined or restricted under the provisions of our code. But usually you don't get to that point because they're logical enough to surrender the dog.
All right, would that be the chief's responsibility, or would that be a Humane Society item?
Animal control and the police department work together on that.
Okay. Yeah, because as far as I know, we haven't had a vicious dog situation, but I know how scary it is when a dog charges you when you're walking down the sidewalk.
That's correct.
And there have been times where people are walking on sidewalks and dogs have come up and scared them. So I don't know if any of those have been reported to the police or not, but I know it happens.
It's happened more than once. You have an underground fence and you're not sure that leash is working. No one knows for sure. So a dog's coming at you, you don't know it's going to stop. So that concerns a lot of people, especially when it's in the front yard.
Especially the ones with small children.
Yes.
Okay, but we have to go through the court system to get a dog declared dangerous or vicious, correct?
No, not necessarily. You go with animal control, wouldn't have to be through the courts. If you get more than one bite, that dog is a dangerous animal.
There's either an administrative adjudication or a judicial adjudication, but yes.
Okay. All right, Kathy, do you have anything else?
No, like I said, most of what I had was informative and doesn't.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Next is Police Mark.
I don't have anything to report. Dale's report of activity was sent to the board, so everybody should have received that. Just if there's any questions about that report, we could answer those questions.
Anybody on the board have questions on the report or any questions for Mark?
No.
Actually, that report will be sent tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Because this is the first day that couldn't start until the end of the month. So it is not complete yet, but it will be.
Thanks for that clarification, Dale. All right, next we've got water, Trustee Joe.
Nothing to report. The person who was behind who was making the $500 payments got them all in, so that's over anyway. That's all really.
Congratulations, great job on that, Joe and Jeff, getting that worked out for the village. So we didn't lose any money on that. Thank you. Anything else, Joe?
No.
All right, public property, Jim.
Nope, nothing to add.
All right, I do want to take a minute and thank Phil and Dale for all the extra time they're putting in up at the police department in the garage, working with the contractors, making the upgrades to it. I know they both spent extra time up there and I do really appreciate it. I want to thank you guys for everything you're doing up there. So thank you. All right, next on our agenda is Liquor Commissioner, me. There's been no licenses activity this month and I don't really have anything to report there. We don't have anything on the agenda for a closed session, so we're not going to go to a closed session. Before we adjourn, does anybody have anything, any last minute thoughts on anything they want to add?
No.
If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any final questions or discussions? Not Allison, please call roll.
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Phil Morris,
Yes.
Mark Cotty.
Yes.
All right, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and for participating. Unfortunately, obviously, we will not have a Christmas get together this year, but maybe we'll be able to put something together in the spring. So stay healthy and be careful out there and have a good holiday season, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Adjourned.
I guess.